Ladies and gentlemen, I am known as Mr. Vicious, Rimoe.
Rimoe.
What's up, everybody? This is Mr. Vicious, Rimoe Vinci, and I am back. And this is a whole new deal here. We got another interview cracking, but guess what? I'm not doing the interview. I'm the one being interviewed. How cool is that? Right?
What? And what
And
up,
I got
everybody? It's your boy,
and I got my
Douja.
brother with me. My fault, Doge. My fault. Let me introduce you real quick. I got my brother, Douja from the Bro fame, with me to do the interviewing. So what up, Doge? How it be?
What up, man? It's been a minute since we've been out here in the public eye talking to everybody and stuff, but we got
It
a lot
has
of
been
stuff
a
going
minute.
on. It's a new year, and yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on, so we figured, let's do a couple interviews and let these people know a little bit of history, about ourselves that they have no idea about.
Right? I'm excited about it. I know last year I got to interview Grimm. I did a couple episodes with him, and I've been trying to get an interview with Doge for a long time. So stay tuned because that one's coming up next. But Doge wanted to interview me first, so I guess here we are.
So let's jump right into it. Let's
Let's
let the
jump
people
out.
know where you were born at.
Well, if you're a fan of the Bros, or if you peep out my music at all, or any of that kind of stuff, everybody should know that I'm proud Denver native, Denver, Colorado. I was born right in the heart of it, St. Joseph's. That's kind of my thing. I
What?
take
Off of Colfax?
no, oh no, it's not on the facts.
Oh,
It's off of Downing Street, down in the heart of it all.
downtown.
It's yeah, it's downtown. My kids and their mom and myself were all born in the same hospital, so that was kind of cool. Kind of cool little trivia note for those that are keeping track.
Eh, Um, and you've lived in Denver. Well, I mean, I know, but you lived in Denver pretty much your whole life.
My whole life, bro, I've been here. I'm never gonna leave. I've had I've had a few situations and a few people trying to convince me that I should move out of Denver and try to do things in other places. But this is home, bro. This is always gonna be home to me. It's getting more and more expensive to live here and stay here, which sucks. But I ain't never gonna leave. And, they say never, but that's one thing that I feel like I will probably always stick to. Like this is my home. I would like to if life were to ever blow up for me, and I end up falling into some kind of money, I would like to have a little spot in New Mexico as well, kind of not necessarily in your neck of the woods, but in the northern part where my mom's from. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to have a little
House.
something there.
It's nice.
Maybe,
It's nice up there. Northern New Mexico is really nice.
yeah, so like it would be cool to have a little spot there too as well. But this will always be home for me, bro.
I for for those that don't know, I was out there 30 years, but I've absolutely loved Colorado. But yeah, like we were just talking before we got on the camera, like, something funny is I miss the snow, and a lot of Coloradans like hell with the snow because they
Bro,
got to drive, shovel that stuff.
I got a love-hate relationship with it, bro. A love-hate relationship, that's for sure.
Right. So what areas would you say you grew up in your elementary years?
So I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to eighth grade, and that was in Westminster, Holy Trinity. That's where I came from. And for those that also are keeping track, I had a couple of homies that were in that class with me that you may know as well. Homie B. Ill was in the class with me. Um, there's a dude named That's Trey or Trey Face that's also got some amazing music out. That he's the only one I don't have a song with. But he was also in that class with me. My brother Jay Smoke, who you hear on the Virus. When that comes out, y'all will know who that is. He's also one of my best friends and brothers. And for those that know my brother Mike, who's my best friend and my kid's godfather, he's also it wasn't in the same class, but went to the same school with us. So he's also somebody I'd like to get on an interview here soon. That dude actually just moved, so hopefully I get to get in touch with him soon.
Shout out to Eastside Mike. Hey,
My brother. Chakra all
we got, for those of you who don't know, Mikey's been a part of the Friends for a while. He's Remo's known him longer than me, I believe. But he was one of our bros, you know, our party bros, the dro bro. He used to smoke weed with the, you know, he's one of the bros, you know. So yeah,
yeah.
so that would be a fun interview to interview
Yeah,
Mikey for sure.
I've been down with that dude since we were like 11. You know what I mean? So Mike and I go pretty way back.
So you grew up right there, or you went to the Holy Trinity off of like 72nd Federal, correct? Yeah,
Yep,
right.
yep, that's the one.
Somewhat, kind of, somewhat there.
Yeah, it's like 74th. They actually changed the name. It's not Holy Trinity. The school's not Holy Trinity anymore. It's called Blessed Miguel Pro. But it's still there. It's still kicking. I try to go every year. They have like a fun fest, a bazaar kind of thing, you know, like a fundraiser every year. So I try to
Oh,
go.
I remember. I went. I think you invited me one year when we were younger, actually.
Yeah, yeah. I try to go
Yeah.
as I can. Like every year, you know, they do it. So I try to make it every year, but I haven't been able to every year. But you know, I try. I try to go back and see some of the old teachers, some of the old homies, and just peep
That,
out the old grounds. You know.
so I my last teacher I knew from middle school from here, she don't work at the school no more. But it was kind of funny because, you know, she remembers me from middle school and I was a hellraiser, you know. So it was like, so when she left, I was like, my secret dies with her, you know. So everybody else, they asked me, hey, how are you in school? A honor roll student. I was a good kid.
Imagine that.
But yeah, I mean, for those of you who don't know, that's a happening area right there on Federal. I mean, there's a lot of stuff right there that's changed throughout the years. That's when
I
I met
remember. Go ahead.
we
Go
met
ahead.
our good friend Steph right there when she was hooking up the Wendy's.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. That's another one of my kids' godparents right there. You know, so that's pretty cool stuff. Glad you brought that
Mhm.
up. You know, it's kind of funny you bring up feds and all the transformations and whatnot, because you know, my dad was actually born here in the 40s, 1945, and I remember hearing stories about how up north, like once you got past 104th, it was all like farmland. You know what I mean? And they used to come and bring their cars, and they would like race cars and stuff up there in the dirt and all that kind of stuff. So cool stuff, man. A lot of changes. Now I'm way up here. You know what I'm saying? I'm up in the
Yeah,
boonies nowadays.
I I kind of remember when there wasn't really nothing past like 120th. You know, like going to
Right?
136 was like way out there. You know, but now it's
Right?
like everything's
Now that's
built
kind
up.
of like,
It's kind of yeah,
yeah, that's
it's
kind of
kind
what
of
I
wild.
stay now. Yeah, I kind of stay up that way nowadays. So I remember, like you said, back in like the day, you know, 136, like I had no reason to ever come up this way. And now it's a whole different story, you know.
I and speaking of federal, one of the local Denver rappers, he did a remix to that song "When I Wrote Federal" from Pure Devotion, and
Yeah,
I was
pure.
like, yeah, so I was like, I want to holler at him too. Maybe me and you could interview him.
I'm with it.
But
I'm with
but
it. I love the-
what have you? What got? I mean, so you've been going to Catholic school as long as you remember?
Yeah, yeah, that was my first school. So when I went from Catholic school in elementary and middle school, when I went into high school, it was like culture shock for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up with like the same 20, 25 kids. You know what I mean? My whole upbringing. You know, my whole life up until that.
Yeah.
So you go to high school, and all of a sudden you're in this gigantic freaking place with hundreds and thousands of kids, and your
Did
class
you
is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
did you go to Northland?
I did for my
Yeah,
first.
that school's big, huh?
Yeah, and like I said, for me it was culture shock, bro. And my homies J Smoke Jesse, he's the one that was like my first homie. Because like I said, we went to that school together, Catholic school, but he bounced out about a year or so before I did, and he went to public middle school for a little bit. So he knew a lot of people going into Northland. So when we got there, you know, he was kind of like my lifeline. He was always
Yeah.
introducing me to people, kind of like showing me what's up. You know, I owe a lot to that dude, bro. Like that dude, before before him and I hooked up, I was like a real naive, you know, good kid for the most part. You know what I'm saying? And then like
Yeah.
that dude I kind of attribute it to him, and then this homegirl I had at the time too, where they kind of both showed me what life was actually like, what real life was like. You know what I mean? And how it
Yeah.
was in the world. And like, you know, I don't want to say like they corrupted me because, you know, like you have to be like a completely innocent person to be corrupted. And I was never an innocent person per se, you know, but I did kind of have a real naivety to me. And they definitely brought me up to speed pretty quickly. So once I
Yeah.
hit high school, bro, it was a done deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that was Ashes and Sarah for me. They play like we say
We have some
they yeah,
stories.
they player baptized me into the life of the no. They gave me my last name, Doja. That's it.
Those
But that's kind of funny. I forgot you went to Northland. Yeah, because I went from here on middle school and I went to Northland. I remember it's like the first day I could not find any of my classes. Like there's a upstairs, downstairs, back area, this trip trailers over here. Oh, it was a mess.
yeah, bro. It was a lot. It was a lot. Very overwhelming at first, you know. Um,
Yeah, so I know
and to
I
be
know
honest,
what you
I didn't last that long there. To be honest with you, I only did my first 2 years there because, um, to be completely honest, you know, in Catholic school, the curriculum is so different. You know, it was very much advanced. So I was learning stuff once I got to Northland that I learned in sixth grade. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like,
Oh damn.
yeah. So I was like kind of ahead of people, you know. So that kind of
Yeah.
actually it kind of bit me in the ass a little bit, to be honest with you, because I started to get lazy about it. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
terrible with like homework and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I ended up getting kind of like not necessarily kicked out, but I kind of got kicked out. You know what I mean? And I ended up having to go to an alternative school, and and it was called Vantage Point. And when I
you
started,
you at the vantage point.
yeah, yeah, I had to go to Vantage Point, but it was cool. Like, man, Vantage Point was dope, bro. And like, I know, you know, like an alternative school or whatever has like a bad stigma, but man, every single teacher there was amazing. The some of the relationships I made there and friendships I made there were awesome too, you know, and lifelong friendships. In fact, you know, she's my ex now, but the girl that I was just with for the past however many years, I actually met her at Vantage Point. You know what I mean? And she just blossomed there. You know what I mean? She actually ended up being like a valedictorian almost. And I don't know if she was or if she was close to it or whatnot, but she
Yeah.
quite the career there, you know. And we still kind of keep in touch with some of them people. So
Yeah, it was kind of funny because like I remember in high school it was like, oh, you go to alternative school, you're a dummy, you're a stoner, you're this that, trouble. You know, like you said, the stick, this, they label it. But
yeah,
those people that I know that went, they they uh they were actually really smart,
very,
and
very
and
smart.
yeah, and they knew more than they graduated like 2 years before. I mean, I didn't graduate. I'm a dropout, but I went 2 years, but like um but yeah, these guys would be all smart and stuff. Because I remember like this guy Nick, and come to find out, Nick ended up being a millionaire, like a $172 million that he sold his rights to a dispensary. And Nick was the stinky stoner kid in class that I never thought would amount to shit.
It's kind of crazy how that works out, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, like for me, like aside from that, when I see people that I went to Holy Trinity with, like in my class at Holy Trinity, like there's doctors, there's engineers, like there's all these dudes and all these people that are like very, very successful, and they did it right. You know, I was like you said, I was the stoner in high school. You know what I'm saying? I discovered weed around 12 years old, so it was a done deal. You know what I'm saying?
Damn, 12?
Wow,
Jeez.
bro. That was when I
I,
first started smoking weed, and
I saw I was smoking
it
the cigs
definitely.
then. I was smoking my
So
good cigarettes.
honest, that's kind of how it evolved, you know. Like, you know, me and some of the homies, it was cigarettes at first, and then I was in New Mexico the first time for a graduation, and you know, that's when I first hit a joint and stuff, and you
You're
know,
like, it's
I
over.
never looked back since. Never looked
You're
back
like,
since.
you're like me. We are for life, baby. Wait, right
Well,
here.
I mean, we are 2/3 of the dro, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it is what it is.
The dro keeps us going. Nah, just kidding. Nah, but yeah, it was a crazy. That was a fun time, high school, and then Northland was cool because it wasn't like, like in Denver, like in Federal, like say off of or 38th and Pecos, say where Chubby's is, that was
Yeah,
hood. I mean, it's still hood over there. That's the north side, But
yeah, no doubt.
North End was kind of a little chill back then. You know what I mean? Like we still had everything there, but it wasn't so crazy. Like when I strolled Federal and gang banging and all, it was kind of
See,
wild in Denver. Denver was hardcore.
yeah, Denver, you don't mess around in some of them areas. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
speak of
But
Denver, what's your favorite spot to go smoke at?
to be honest with you, like I know that's kind of your thing. Like you have like this destination smoking stuff, you know, like it wasn't necessarily like that for me, bro. Like we would just kind of cruise and just kind of wherever the road would take us kind of thing. We would just be smoking and cruising kind of thing. So it wasn't like a go to a specific spot to go smoke, you know what I mean? I would have like these little routes. I would even call it my smoking route, you know what I mean? And we would just kind of cruise and do it like that, you know. And I would just go and like check out cool little areas, and like I used to like to go and check out like the mansions, all the big nice houses and all that kind of stuff, and just imagine, you know, like
Oh,
damn,
remember
imagine if it's in this house or what we would do in that house or.
what? Where is it? Oh, Cherry Creek, huh? Man, some of
I
those
would
houses over there, huh?
I would never really go too far south. I kind of always stayed up north like this, you know what I mean? So up in the
What?
Legacy Ridge areas or in Westminster, there's a few,
Oh, Legacy Ridge, huh? That's a nice area.
or even in Westminster, there's a few spots, you know what I mean, that are kind of hidden, but they have some incredibly huge houses. In fact, when I interview Mike, I'm gonna have to ask him about if he remembers the time when we was checking some of those out, because we got chased out of the area one time by security because we were peeping out the houses.
They probably thought you guys were casing the joints, huh?
Yeah, bro. I mean, when you look at me, at least when I'm in my everyday, you know what I mean? Maybe on the show, like I'm smiling, it's a little different here. But in my everyday, bro, like I just look suspect. It don't matter what I'm wearing, don't matter where I'm at or what I'm doing. I always look like I just robbed something or and if I'm dressed up, I look like I'm on the way to court or coming back from court or something. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, my cousin Sam, shout out to Sam. He's always busting my balls when I dress up nice. He goes, "What? Did you just get out of court?" And I'm like, "Hey man, gonna dress nice for your grandma's house. What the hell, bro?
right,
Where
right,
life's not
right.
color and shit."
That's what I'm about, dog. I like dressing
Like,
up, you know?
say,
To me.
like when I do my interview, I want to wear a suit and tie.
I I'll be prepared, bro. I'll try to match you somehow. I don't know. I got my suit hooked up right now, so you know I'm gonna be in the process of moving here pretty soon. You know what I mean? So a lot of my stuff's getting packed up.
So, I mean, you obviously were at the school, but um, so you've been a Catholic your whole life, though, pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm what they call as a cradle Catholic. So obviously I was baptized
Oh, from
baby. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of cool that you're getting into faith right now and about that kind of stuff, because faith has been a huge part of my life, especially over the past, I don't know, 10 years or so. Obviously, growing up Catholic and going to Catholic school, like I learned a lot of stuff then, and I had
I,
went through a lot of different like different classes or whatnot. We used to go to church during school. You know what I mean? We had like one day a week that we would go to actual church during the school time, during the school day. And I used to sing. I was what they call a cantor. I used to do that. I got to read, you know, for different things, you know, different readings and stuff. Um, I was never an altar server or anything like that, but I had homies that were. So nowadays, like I said, over the past 10 years or so, I kind of got back into my faith because we haven't really talked about it or anything, but people that know me know I lost my dad when I was 17. And when I lost my dad, I kind of got real self-destructive for a while. And I really lost track of my faith for quite a few years, actually. And it wasn't until I started having kids to where things started to change for me again. And I started to get a little bit back more into my faith. I got my kids baptized, and their mom actually also wanted to get baptized and get all of her sacraments and stuff. You know what I mean? So when she was going through her journey, it's kind of what ultimately brought me back, and like just seeing the transformation that it was making for her. So it kind of brought me back into the swing of things, and I ended up started going to another parish, and that's where I've been at ever since, bro. I'm one of the Knights of Columbus there. I've been in the choir there. I do Eucharistic ministry there, which is like when you give the bread and the wine, like when you're one of those people
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
so I do Eucharistic ministry. I've done all kinds of stuff there, bro. Like, it feels really good and really like fulfilling to be able to be depended on for all that kind of stuff. And it's a trip, bro, because like again, like when you look at me, you kind of see certain things and you see me a certain way. So I felt like that would be the case with this church, but it was never the case with that church, bro. Like they have always accepted me with open arms. And like it's crazy to see all of these people that you wouldn't necessarily think that I would be associated with or that would associate with me actually. And
Yeah, yeah.
there's nothing but love there, bro. You know what I mean? One of my best friends is a deacon. He's one of the deacons there, and he's also one of my night brothers and stuff. So I'm just so grateful for my faith and for how it's really been so much of a blessing in my life and how it's gotten me through so much stuff. And the Lord, like I kind of have been trying to make a mission of my life lately to just try to make him proud, bro, because I haven't always done that. I've been a piece of shit in my life more often than I'd like to admit. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm on this mission now to not be that and to be somewhat of a light for people, So every day I'm at the church. You know what I'm saying? And if I'm not at the church, just for even 20 minutes, just to go and say a quick little prayer and light a candle, you know what I mean? For people that I know that need it, or whatever kind of stuff. If I'm not doing that, then I'm doing something that I feel like would serve the Lord. Like I volunteer to visit hospice patients twice a week. You know what I mean? So I'm doing that, and on the off days when I'm not at church, I'm doing stuff like that too. So I'm trying to make the Lord proud however I can. But I know I fail all the time still. But that's kind of the point. I read this thing one time where it said, when you're doing well and you're not, like, when you're healthy, you don't go to the doctor necessarily. It's when you're sick is when you go to the doctor, right? So like a lot of times
Yes.
people say, like, when you're a church goer or something like that, you know what I mean? It's because you're like this holier than thou kind of thing, and it's not it at all, bro. Like sinners, we're all sinners, and
Yeah.
we all need that kind of hope and that kind of faith, you know what I mean? And that kind of
Yeah.
relationship with the Lord. And everybody's different. People have different upbringings or they have different beliefs or whatever. But I think that we all kind of have this understanding that we're not just here by accident. Like there is some sort of higher source and higher being, you know what I mean, higher power that has brought us here. And that I
Yeah.
see, I don't know how anybody else feels, but I feel like I see examples of that every single day of my life, bro. There's always something where I'm like, that's clearly from God. Or God will stand in my way when I'm trying to do something stupid a lot of times too. You know what I mean? And like there's just so many situations, bro, to where it's undeniable for me. So my faith is a big, big thing for me these days. And I try to involve my family and my friends. And I like talking about the Lord with people at work. I pray for people. I pray with people. Like that's just kind of where I'm at, bro, in my life these days. So a lot of times, I even kind of get made fun of a little bit, like even by my own kids. You know what I mean? Because they're like, "Oh, dad's a little church boy nowadays," or whatever. And I'm like, you can say that all you want, and you can clown all you want, but I know that's where I need to be. Like
All right, bud. Don't
I've
break
been
this to church, boy.
I've been around gangsters and I've been around fools doing gangster stuff most of my life, bro. You know what I mean? And like again, like I said, I was living in those type of veins as well. I was never like this hardcore thug or anything like that, but I've always been affiliated, and I wasn't necessarily living the right way for quite some time in my life. So nowadays I feel like I'm all about redemption. I'm all about trying to save my soul and the souls around me. You know?
But I know what you mean like that too. And I feel like being I was we were talking about it before we started recording, but I work with this guy Joe who does the word pastor, I think, term. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah,
the proper
he's a
term.
preacher. Oh yeah,
Oh, he's a so he but we get into almost daily. We get into biblical conversations. Like
that's
we
what I'm.
and it's but it's not necessary like we're talking about like the Genesis or like certain things of the Bible, but we're relating to like what's happening now
Yeah,
and what's like the reference into the Bible of it, you know. And then
no,
like and then we were talking earlier about that show, The House of David. I watch the show and then I go and I ask him, did he really sing music to him? Was he really comforting? Was David really, you know, like because me personally, I have a Bible. I was raised Catholic, but I kind of went a different path, which we'll explain tomorrow. But
yeah,
but like you know, I understand it real, you know, real good. You know, I've and I but I believe that like I studied different religions and different things, but it's like the same kind of common thing, you know, like heaven, hell, creator, God, good, bad, you know, like, you know, and I mean there are some religions that are pretty like, you know, whoa. But you know,
yeah,
but you know, and I feel like that's one of the things where I'm trying to get at. Long story short, is I feel like that's one of the things in this time, especially right now, is what people lack is faith in God or being righteous, doing right. You know, like you feel it in your heart. You know, when you do stuff wrong, you feel
yeah,
it. You feel guilty. You know, like
absolutely.
and we need more people, you know, out here that are like trying to like uplift more people instead of stomping each other down so bad, like you know. And I was one of those people too, like you know, I ain't perfect. I stomped a lot of people down, and you know, and I've been stomped down too, you know, but I'm like a cockroach. I don't die. I keep coming back. No, I'm just kidding.
No,
But I
but I noticed. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but what I've noticed since my journey has kind of taken me to the place that I'm at now. What I've noticed is like I see more and more people getting involved and wanting to learn and wanting to have that relationship with the Lord. And that's why it feels awesome to me when I'm provided with those type of conversations, when the Lord will put somebody right in front of me that I know needs some kind of help or needs some kind of love or something. You know what I mean? And like it feels good to be able to provide that. And like I'm by no means like a priest or a deacon myself. I'm not anywhere near that, even though I do have aspirations of being a deacon at some point later in life. But I try to. I've been doing classes for like 9 years. Something called it used to be called RCIA, now it's called OCIA, and it's like adults that are trying to get initiated into the church, and they have to do these classes for like 9-10 months, to learn about how things work and what things are about, like what being a Catholic actually means. So
yeah
I've actually sponsored people for the past, like I said, about 9 years, and in those classes I look forward to it every single year, bro, because although my faith is a huge part of my life, I still struggle with it constantly. You know what I mean? I have these like inner torments and stuff inside of me that like it causes me to doubt my faith and to doubt my own self a lot of times. I have a lot of those. So every time when it's the time of the year for these classes to start, I'm like ready. I'm so
yeah
ready to start these classes every year because I need it. My soul needs it. It's like a refresher course every year. You know what I mean? And I recommend it to any Catholic that's trying to, get more in tune with their faith. And again, like I was saying, like you had brought up a minute ago about all the differences between, the religions and how we all kind of have this basic understanding of right and wrong in that conscience. I always felt like for I had this other show I was trying to get off the ground last year, where I was trying to have, Grim was going to be part of it, and my deacon homeboy and another homeboy was supposed to be part of it, and we all kind of come from different lanes, different veins, and don't necessarily always have the same type of beliefs with each other, but I felt like the similarities were so beautiful there that I wanted to explore that some more, you know what I mean, and explore the differences too, because just because I was born here in this time, who's to say that somebody that's born on the other side of the world and has these other sets of beliefs and this other upbringing, who's to say who's right? You know what I mean? Because I don't really know necessarily. Oh, snap, earthquake in TRC.
oh my god
But like I just know that my faith has led me to certain places in my life that I feel like are completely warranted and completely like where I need to be. You know what I mean? And
yeah
very much very, very much like a significant thing in my life. And again, like I feel like I experience of almost on a daily basis. And even if I'm not like actually experiencing it, like I know he's there. I know the Lord is there no matter what I'm going through, whether I feel like he's hearing me or not. I know he's there. You know what I mean? And I just try to keep that in mind no matter what it is. And
I,
again, like I said, I struggle quite a bit with it, but I'm still holding on. I wear a rosary on my wrist. I haven't taken it off since I got it about 5, 6 years ago. No, 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And I try to pray it as often as I can. But again, like I fall off, I kind of lose my way a lot of times. So that's why I need to keep showing
the
up.
my my buddy Joe, we we said how do you stay righteous basically, when you're tested constantly. And I said,
Yeah,
and then we were talking about not only physically, you're also tested mentally, spiritually, in the mind. He was saying like it's a battle of the mind, constant. You see the imagery where the people show like the devil and the angel talking on your thing. And I have a tattoo that kind of resembles that. But anyways, but like yeah, it's like constant like should I do this? Should I do that? Like, oh, and it's like, yeah, and it's crazy because, like you said, you find the faith daily. But yeah, I feel like that too. Like, like daily, like I wake up and I try to wake up energized, and I try to say, like you were saying earlier, like people only pray when they're down. I always try to be like, thank you, God, bless me for another day, wake up kind of like positive, and I don't, you know, and I've gotten real good like every time before I eat too. Hey, thank you. Can you nurture my body with this food? Thank you.
yeah,
It's like showing like the little gratitudes constantly, like for little things, but it is a I have to say, because I mean, and we'll get into it some more tomorrow. But the righteous path it is tough, and you are constantly tested.
it's not supposed to be easy, brother. It's not
Yeah,
supposed to be. In fact, Jesus says in some of his teachings, when he talks to the apostles, he tells them like they hated me. You know what I mean? And all I'm trying to do is love people here. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
expect them to treat you that same way. You know what I mean? And all
yeah,
he did was was love people and die for our sins. You know what I'm saying? So like, and look at how we treated him. We killed him. We took him out. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a whole different story, bro. Like people think like once you're trying to live the right way, like it's all peaches and cream from there, but it ain't. Like you will get tested. The closer you get to the Lord, the more you're tested, bro. And I feel that, constantly. And I'm not saying like I'm close to the Lord or anything, but I'm trying. I'm trying to be there. I'm trying to be there as often as I can. So and like
yeah.
saying how you start your days. I start and end my day with prayer every single day, bro. And even on the days when I'm not feeling it, or on the days where I feel like maybe he ain't even hearing me or something, I still do it because if I don't, I feel guilty, and I don't just feel guilty because of like being like they always talk about Catholic guilt and all this kind of stuff. It ain't necessarily that. I think it's in myself. It's in my own being because I know better. You know what I mean? So it's
Well,
like even
it's
when I'm
your
feeling it,
conscience,
exactly.
I read I mean there you have the people talk about it in religion, but also I read about like that in book, like your subconscious, your conscience, like you had like it's to me it's like a gift, one of our spiritual gifts that God gave us where we can analyze in
Yeah,
our brain like what's right and wrong. Like like animals, they don't like make love to each other, they go and rape each other, and that's how they're keep evolving with more animals and stuff. Like us, we
yeah,
we we have that in our mind where we're just like, no, we don't have do rape like that, or not to rape, but that's kind of a bad example, but you know what I mean. We have the conscience to say
yeah,
that this is wrong. Why is this telling me that this is not right? Because even when I've done wrong stuff, I've known. I probably shouldn't
yeah.
have took that other shot. I shouldn't have flipped off that cop. I shouldn't have
Yeah,
ate that last whatever, but you know what I mean? Like
exactly. And
I
that's kind of where discernment comes into play, bro. Because you have to be able to know where things are coming from. You know what I mean? Because our minds and our hearts can easily be deceived. You know what I'm saying? And we can deceive ourselves more often than not because we know how we're wired. We know what buttons to push. You know what I mean? And oh, I'll be okay if I just do this, but you know that you ain't. You know what I mean? That's not how it's supposed to be. So like it's a struggle, bro, and it's a process and it's a journey, you know, and everybody's on their own time frame in their journeys, you know. So when people are judging other people for the things that they're doing or that they're not doing or whatever, it's very difficult. And I know the church gets a bad rap for stuff like that. And it's not necessarily the church itself, it's more the people. You know, the people in religions are kind of what ruin religion a lot of times because they try to add all these other extra things to it that it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's about your relationship with the Lord, and that's all it's about. You know what I mean? And people try to make it into all these other things that make it to where you need to worship like I worship, or you need to do this like I do it.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of religion has like a bad stigma to it because of people. You know what I mean? Not because of the Lord or the source or whatever itself. It's because of people, and that's kind of where I feel like it's our responsibility, you know, as you know, followers or believers, to be that beacon of light and to live by example and to not be that way, to not be this judgmental, you know, condescending type of a person that's making you have that sour taste in your mouth from what religion is supposed to be, you know.
Yeah.
And like right now, you know, in Catholics, like we're in the middle of Lent right now, you know, leading up to Easter. And Lent is a time of reflection and a time of repentance when you're supposed to be able to give up, excuse me, you're supposed to give up something that's like a sacrifice, you know, because Jesus spent 40 days in the desert being tempted, you know, by the devil himself. And this is supposed to be like a representation of that, you know what I mean? So every year for Lent, you know, there's a million billion Catholics around the world that are giving up certain things and making these sacrifices, you know. And I feel like for me, I look forward to it every year because I have a lot of vices myself. You know what I mean? That I definitely need to try to expunge from myself and try to get away from or get control over or whatnot. You know, that's why you don't see me smoking with Doge right now. You know, this isn't a Drobro episode for sure, and we're not doing like a Droman of the week or anything like that. But
What? You lied to me. No, just kidding.
but it seems
Sorry,
like that's
people.
that's one of the things that I give up every year. You know what I'm saying? Like every year I give it up, and people are like, "What? Aren't you addicted to smoking weed and this and that, whatever?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." For one, and for two, like, you know, to be able to make a sacrifice, it has to be something that is not easy. It has to be something that's difficult. So, you know, for me, that is kind of difficult for me a little bit, you know, but I've been doing it for so long now to where it's like I look forward to it
Well,
now. You know what I mean? I look
yeah.
forward to giving that little, so, and that's just one of the things, you know, that I like to do, that I like to give up, or like I like to implement certain things in my life, you know. So Lent is a perfect time for all of that kind of stuff
I,
to take place.
I went one year. You might remember too. For Easter weekend, I went and I did the pilgrimage down there, and I walked to Chimayo. It was 15
Yeah,
miles.
right.
But
And, and you brought something back for my mom, and she still got it.
yeah. Um, my mom had the idea to do that, but I'll never forget. Like we were walking in this, and we asked the lady because we were walking for hours, man. I mean, it was a long time. And I don't know why I'm not athletic and walking them. And she said, we said, hey, ma'am, we're how much farther? You know, the Lord did it. So just keep going and pray with him, and you will be there before you know it. And
Yep.
and me and my mom just looked at each other like, that's not the answer I wanted, but that is the answer that's the right answer. You know what I mean? But like,
It's not always what you want, and that's something that we all kind of have to learn the hard way. You know, God does answer everybody's prayers, but it may not be what you want, and it may not be in the time frame that you want it either. You know what
or
I mean? And it's just one of the realities of it all.
what's the saying? It's like the Lord works in mysterious ways or something like that. I truly, I truly believe that because I've had a lot of moments in my life where I just kind of look at the sky like, I somebody was watching over me, man. I just like, there's no way I could have got out of that situation without some unseen hand in it, So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those are those situations that I'm talking about, bro. Like where it's undeniable. And it's like how could you see it any other way? You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I kind of look forward to that kind of stuff. You hear this guy? This is one of my dogs right here that's trying to get some attention. But
so
yeah,
for the
yeah,
people,
bro.
are you a dog lover, animal lover? I got cats myself by accident.
Yeah.
That's a story I'll tell tomorrow because it's. But
I've
yeah.
always been a dog lover and a dog person, but it wasn't until I got with my ex here, bro, where I learned what a real dog person is. Cause she's like Snow White dog with animals. You know what I'm saying? She wants to save all the animals, so it's kind of a beautiful thing. But these pups are definitely a big part of my life these days. You know.
Hey.
But that pilgrimage though, before we get away from that
Oh
pilgrimage that you went on, my grandma actually did the you did what'd you say, the 15-mile one? She used to do like the 100-mile one or whatever, like the
well,
bigger one.
most people walk from Albuquerque, and
Yeah.
driving from Albuquerque, that's like an hour and 45-minute drive. So that's like 100 miles. That's a lot, dude. Like, yeah. And I would see
Yeah,
people like walking from
bro.
there, and I was amazed. Like,
Yeah, she did that every year when I was growing up. And like the destination is the same thing. It's the Santuario. And they have
yeah.
that cool they have that dirt pit there. It's like holy dirt. You know what I mean? And that's what you brought back for my mom. And like I said, she still got it. But I remember going when I was little, like it was kind of a big deal, bro, to like go and meet her there, at the Santuario, and like the whole family would show up, and it would be like this big celebration and stuff. It was dope. I kind of miss those days. I would like to do that
Uh,
someday, bro. I would like to do that
hey,
pilgrimage. It would be pretty.
you just took the words out of my mouth. Let's do it. I'll do it with you.
Yeah,
We'll
maybe this next year or whenever they
yeah,
do it
like
again, we should do it.
I'm totally down, dude. What me and my mom did is we just basically walked from the hotel, and we just walked there from the hotel. So
See, I
that
want
was
to do
fun.
the one that my grandma did though. The one she did, it took like a week. It was like a whole week of it. You know what I mean, or whatever. It was no joke.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if
I'd
if
be
you're
down for
down,
that too. I'd be down for. Hey, like I met I so I mean it's kind of off subject, but get same subject what we're talking. But I
yeah,
had such a cool experience like from the people I met and talked to during this because you meet thousands of people. There's people from everywhere. And the
yeah.
funniest one of the funniest stories is I met this old man. He was an elderly dude, and I said, "Hey, how long you been walking?" He said, "Oh, for the past 4 days." And I said, 4 days? He said, "Yeah, I slept
Right.
in those." He said, "I slept in those hills over there." And I said, "Those ones? They were so far, bro. You had to like they were far. You had to squint your eyes. Like they were way the hell out there. Like they were far."
Oh,
He's like, "Yeah, I slept in those hills." He's like, he had a little sleeping backpack on his back, and then he had a little bit of food. But most of the people they don't even eat too. They fast the whole time, you know. And I
yeah.
was like, wow. So like I was like, oh, I'm tired. But I'm like, meet this guy, and he told me that, and I said, oh, dude, I feel like a sissy now, like, or you know what I mean? Like I'm like, I seen guys carrying big crosses on their back,
Yep.
walking, and yeah, it was a very enlightenment experience, and I would like to go and take a camera and kind of like, not like document, but kind of like just get a couple of interviews and stuff because I think it's a very enlightenment spiritual experience that like you don't have to be a Catholic. You should just it's just something to go and kind of uplift, and it's a great experience. And and
Very,
I,
very.
I I kept my shoes. I bought some brand new Nike Cortezes, and I still got them. I put the 15 miles on them, and I retired them. Like, but yeah, I'll never forget. That was my mom. My mom always has ideas like, "Hey, let's go do this, go do that," and I'm always like, "All right, boy, all right." And that was one of them. She had that idea, and I said, and we went, and yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. But I'll be totally down. Like well, I'll be down to plan that. We could do it.
Yeah, we should work on that. You know, something else I'd like to do too that's in New Mexico is they also have I don't know if it's in Albuquerque or where it's at, but I know it's kind of in the southern part around where you are. But there's a church down there that has the spiral staircase. It's a real famous
Oh,
where the staircase is said to have been made by Saint Joseph himself. And bro, like that whole story there is also a beautiful story. You know how the Santuario has the dirt pit that's real famous and holy. Like this staircase is also that same way, and it's not made with any nails or anything like that. It's all just made out of wood, and it's like pristine. Like the way it's made is just incredible, especially for at the time. So that's something else I'd like to definitely check out one of these days. I'm kind of surprised I haven't yet, because it's not like I'm far away from y'all. You know what I'm saying? So like it should be
yeah,
accessible.
but I mean, it gets rough with the scheduled life. You know what I mean? It's hard to kind of
Life don't stop
like.
for nobody, my brother, until it does. you know.
Yeah, that's a great messed up saying right there. I ain't
Yep.
put that on a shirt.
Hey, you could have it, brother. You could have that saying. I just came up with it, so take it.
Mhm.
So, what else are you trying to get into? Now that we got our
Well,
faith, I have a feeling this is gonna be like a two-parter because we just spent a whole lot of time on all this, and that's dope.
yeah, and like I mean, and I know we could get like kind of more into it too because like like a lot of people, like I said, I just feel I did a song called All Shine, and that's gonna be released on my solo album, but I haven't put it out nowhere. But it's like a total religious song. And it's like, and it's talking about when you got God in you, you'll shine no matter what, you know what I mean? And it's kind of
Yeah,
like an underdog song. But I like to get it because like I said, I have we have like Bible talk every day during our lunch and stuff,
yeah.
and we get deep into stuff like we be talking about the giants and the revelations and like and Joe's like, yeah, we're in the fifth wave of the revelations, and I'm like, when's Antichrist coming, and he's just like, oh God, just have your faith, that's all you need is that faith, you don't need worry, you don't need none of that. If you have faith, that's all, and
But
but I but, but I
something that I learned is something that I found. Uh, I'm pretty sure it's true. I'm not 1,000% positive, but it makes all the sense in the world to me. But I read this thing that says, "Do not be afraid" in the Bible 365 times. So I don't know about you, but from what I understand is there's 365 days in the year. So every single day there's a different passage or something that you could read in the Bible that's different that tells you do not be afraid. And I know that's so much easier
huh,
said than done because I am so fearful for all kinds of different things. So like I'm not able to really surrender as much as I would like to, but
huh,
it's there.
that's really cool. I never even knew that.
Yep.
I'm gonna pop. I'm gonna. Oh, he won't be back till Tuesday. I'll write it down though. I'm gonna pop that one at Joe.
Yeah, throw it at him. See what he says. Pastor Joe, I'm
He
interested
go.
to hear what you got to say.
I actually want to interview him too. He'd be real fun.
Yep.
Wait, don't be afraid. 365 times, right?
Not being afraid. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of. But uh let's where let's get into the music a little bit. So
Do it.
so
Let's do it.
I mean, for those who don't know, whoever's just watching this the first time, music's been a real big part of mine and Remo's life. We can't even add up how many tracks we've done because there's so many,
And
but
I've
but
lost quite a bit as well. So I honestly do not, I wouldn't even know at all, because I've lost so much music that I've had that just out there somewhere. But yeah, so as far as my music goes,
or
um,
actually, let's when it's because like a funny part, like one of the homies, like you were like into like jazz and different like type of genres like I wasn't into. So like what influence who showed you this stuff like growing up, like
so
different.
so that's a great question. So when I was a little kid, I was only exposed to like oldies, blues, and jazz, and some Mexican music. because that's what my parents would listen to. So like I'm a real big oldies doo-wop kind of person, you know what I mean? And like bro, I'm like a Wikipedia whore, bro, where I just like fall down these wormholes and I just like learning about people and their stories, which is kind of why I think I do these interviews and stuff, because I just like hearing people's stories. But anyway, um, I would, when I was a kid, I would listen to all of that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until about like 94, I'm probably like 5, 6 years old, something like that. And maybe a little bit older. And my cousin Skrilla was living with us. And I would go up to his room or down to his room because he was in the basement actually. And I would go and I would jack some of his tapes. And I would still like the ones I remember specifically, like there was Snow's Informer, there was Back to the Hotel from In Too Deep, Dr. Dre's
Oh,
The
I
Chronic.
remember.
Uh, there was an MC Hammer one I remember jacking, and Paperboy Diddy. Those ones I remember specifically. And like still to this day, anytime I hear any of those songs, it takes me right back. It takes me right back to those days. Excuse me. So like that's when I was kind of first exposed to hip hop. And then I remember the day, maybe not the day, but I remember the radio station. It used to be called KS 104.3. Before it was 107.5, it was 104.3. And
Oh,
they used to do
that's
all the cool hip hop and R&B and stuff like that. So like that's when I first started getting exposed to all that. I want to say I was around 5 or 6. And once I heard that, the booms and the clacks, from the funk, like that all kind of derives from funk music, from like the
yeah.
70s, 60s, 70s, So funk had the boom and the clack. And like ever
Yeah.
since that, bro, like that just hit me and I was stuck, and like I always appreciated like the songwriting and lyricism, and not just in hip hop. Like I said, I was a big doo-wop dude, and doo-wop also has a lot of melodic type tones as far as your vocals go. You know what I mean? Like that's all it was about. Like a lot of them didn't have backing actual instrument music. It was them doing harmonies, and there was a guy singing bass, and there was a dude doing the high notes, doing the tenor parts and all that kind of stuff, and then the rest of the group was doing the harmony. So like I was just always intrigued by all that kind of stuff, and then my dad was a big blues and jazz guy. So, BB King, Stevie Ray Vaughan is one of the most, incredible guitarists that ever lived. A lot of people talk about Hendrix and stuff like that, but Stevie Ray was the dude for me. He just like took it to a whole nother level. And in jazz, I didn't really know artists per se, but just the feeling and the vibe that you would get from jazz, like smooth jazz music, not necessarily old big band jazz. I appreciate that kind of stuff now, but at the time when I was a kid, it wasn't that. It was more like a smooth jazz type of thing, and I used to appreciate that a lot. So that's kind of where it all kind of came from for me, and then it evolved and turned into hip hop. And then once I discovered hip hop and R&B and stuff like that, it was a done deal, bro. Like I knew pretty early on that I wanted to be some kind of an entertainer. I didn't know that it would be musically necessarily, because comedy was also a big love of mine. I was a big stand-up comedy dude as a little boy, as a kid. Like I grew up with HBO and stuff like that, So HBO always had like these cool comedy things, like little comedy sets, and they would have like I remember when I was little, my dad had some tapes of some comedy things, and there was like a Rodney Dangerfield's young comedians thing that he would do, and he would showcase all these young comedians that were coming up, and I just used to love that kind of stuff, bro. And like
Yeah.
my dad, my dad was a big Sanford and Son dude, so Red Fox, like he was huge for me. I used to love watching his stand-ups because he was like one of the first dudes to get like raunchy and nasty and all that. Richard Pryor is probably the best of all time, the greatest
Oh my
comedian that
God.
and
That fool,
Richard Pryor was incredible.
I think it was you that actually showed me Richard Pryor for my first time, and then
Oh, he's
Jeremiah,
incredible.
he showed me Cat Williams. I'm actually trying to go see that fool. He's on tour right now, and
Yeah,
but I'm glad you brought up the comedy because like, it was Jeremiah, you, um, yeah, like only a few homies would check out stand up,
yeah.
I didn't know Robin Williams did stand up till after years he died,
He
and
was in
I listened. I actually listened to Robin Williams stand up for my bedtime stories.
You know what I just learned today? I'm a big podcast fan. You know, I listen to podcasts at work all the time, and I was listening to Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp's podcast,
Oh
and
yeah.
he had Damon Wayans on, and Damon Wayans was telling a story about how Robin Williams was like notorious for stealing people's jokes, and it wasn't like
Oh what?
yeah, it wasn't like necessarily a messed up thing, you know, like he would even pay people for jokes or whatever. He would have his manager or whoever going and writing checks in the comedy store or in the improvs or whatever that he would be at the comedy clubs. You know, when people would be like, "Hey, that's my joke" or whatever, you know, he'd be like, "Here's $75." You know, Robin did it better. You know what I mean, or
Oh,
whatever.
oh, that's
You know,
tight.
but that was kind of my thing, bro. As a little boy, as a kid, man, like I knew I wanted to be some kind of entertainer. So I didn't know if it was going to be like a comedian or a singer because I didn't honestly rap. I didn't think about being a rapper until a little while later. You know, it wasn't until way later. I used to sing in church and stuff, like I said a little bit earlier. So like I honestly felt like it would probably be singing. You know, I have a decent voice. I could carry a tune, you know, a little bit. So I thought
Hurry
it
up,
would
break it
either be
down.
like I ain't singing for y'all right now. Y'all got to pay for that or download. Go on
Hey,
Spotify.
you
You'll
gotta
hear me
check out.
sing.
Yeah, you gotta check out my single, and you gotta give me a play.
I love to sing, bro. You know what I mean? But right now, my throat's kind of messed up. It's been kind of jacked up all week. I've been kind of under the weather. So I ain't trying to make a fool of myself right now. Wait, just give me a little time. I'll sing a little something for y'all in the
Here,
next
dude.
one. You know what I mean?
Here, I'll sing for them. Just kidding.
But like I'm also a fan of like vaudeville in that whole area. Like the Three Stooges are considered like a vaudeville act, but vaudevillians, they could do it all. They could sing, they could dance, they could act, they could do the whole thing. You know what I mean? So
Oh,
like
I never heard of that term before.
oh yeah, vaudeville, bro. That's old school. That's kind of like before radio, before TV kind of stuff. Like vaudeville was the big form of entertainment, you know, one of the big forms of entertainment. But I'm also like a fan of like the crooner area or era. I'm sorry, like Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. Like Dean Martin, that dude, he literally did it all. He sang, he danced, he acted, he was funny. Like he was an all around entertainer. So I kind of felt like that's how I would be, and I kind of still feel like that's kind of how I am still. You know, to this day a
I'll
little bit.
say we're pretty. I mean, yeah, you're pretty multi-talented. You know what I mean?
Honestly, I feel like I have no choice but to be because I have like all of these creative juices that are constantly flowing. And to be honest with you, because of life and situations and you know, being an adult and being a parent and all that kind of stuff, it's almost like you have to suppress those kind of things. You know what I mean? And like, you know, over the years, I feel like I've done exactly that. I've suppressed a lot of it, you know what I mean, for all kinds of different reasons. But nowadays, you know, with the podcasts and like with my music finally being put out and stuff like that, like it's a whole different story nowadays. Like I want to try to explore some of that a little bit more and let those creative juices actually flow, you know?
I I will get into it some more tomorrow on my story, but I always say that I had to take time out from being like what I wanted to be, like which is like I wanted to be like a worldwide known rapper, which I
Yeah.
am known around the world. I have an album around the world, but I'm not like filthy rich or something, you know. But I had to choose like this, like hanging out all these hoes and shit, or am I supposed to be a dad and teach my daughters how to, you know, and stuff. So I kind of had to step back and kind of put this to the side until and focus on being a father, you know, and
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
But it is hard to juggle, you know,
yeah.
all of the life.
Our priorities, man. When you grow up and you become an adult, those priorities change, you know, and things change a little bit and stuff. So that's why, you know, I had a lot of people for a lot of years kind of rooting for me to do something with the music. And when nothing would happen, like they would kind of, you know, ask me, are you still doing it? Are you doing this or that, whatever? And it's like, you know, I always felt like I had the tools and I had the potential, but I've had a lot of things that I kind of would stop myself from, like loyalty. I'm wearing a shirt that says loyalty right now, but loyalty is one of them that like kind of prevented me from going further with a lot of that kind of stuff. But you know, now looking back, I'm grateful for all of that. But I was approached by different labels back in the day, bro, to do something, but my loyalty was to my cousin and to the crew. You know what I'm saying? And if they weren't trying to take the whole crew, well, then they couldn't have me. You know what I mean? And that was kind of a thing for me for a while. And it may have prevented me from going further or whatever in my musical career, but like I felt like that was important at the time. And I still do. Like my cousin is the one that put me on, and my boys are the ones that I made the music with. You know what I mean? So for me to kind of leave everybody behind and do other things just felt wrong to me, bro. It just felt like wasn't the way to be. So I never explored those avenues. And there were times where I regretted it. There were times where I'm like, damn, I should have done this or I should have done that. Because who knows? I could have been put on and then I could have brought everybody with me from there. But I never felt like that was necessarily in the cards.
So you
So
messed it up, man. You could have
I
been
know
famous. You could have brought me on, man.
screwed it up
Jeez.
for everybody, dog. I screwed it up for everybody.
That's it. I'm tired. This interview's done. Nah. Nah, I feel like I said we kind of we know like right now too, like I'm releasing a lot of music more than ever. But for years I've always said it and I still say it to this day, and you understand this too. We never made music for fame, for money. We just would kick it together, smoke, hear some beats, and we'd say, and I used to say the music tells me what to say. My words come to me through the music, like and people were like, man, you fucking high, bro. And I'm like, yeah, I am, but shit, it speaks to me, but it's like just that energy with everybody, when there's like a group of us too, is even funner. Like, like I remember me and Mikey used to write lines together. Yeah, it'd be funny to say that. Yeah, yeah, and and that environment, that vibe, just the creativity happening. It's just like, and when you're with your bros, because I've been to studios too where I just froze up and I didn't feel comfortable,
yeah,
but if I was comfortable, I could freestyle on, I could go, in it, but I understand what you mean by the loyalty because it's like, yeah, when you have your bros and your stuff, it's just like it's a different feeling to me, And then like I said, I always did music so we could bump it in the ride, you know what I mean? Like, hey, some people be like, damn, what are you bumping? Me, fool, shit. Like, you know what I mean? It's like this is my shit. This is my I just remember we always used to say it's like therapy, I gotta get it out, and I feel good like when I write and I do something, you know what I mean? Like
yep. I feel that.
but
Hold on one
but
second.
For more reviews, shorts, and interviews from the Vicious Network, check out The Vicious One on